was really good. I think I've got Friday free. So I'm seriously thinking of like getting my wife and daughter and just flying up real quick. Just like fly, watch it, fly back home super quick and watch it. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. What?
So I have a deal for you. I'm going to be in Layton on Friday, and so we should just walk out.
Well, what it is it's the world is having a hard time right this minute balancing this much energy in this one central location. So it's like there's too much. The axis is kind of tilting a bit because there's too much cool. So we have to like cross in order to kind of keep it balanced. It can only do it for like 2 days in a row. And then after that, it can't. All right, guys. We're going to go over rapport today. This is still part of number 3. Remember on the 5 list? And number 3 is effective communication. Rapport is power. It really is. And I know I've got it written up there. Don't worry for those who just showed up. I'm not one of the guys who just reads PowerPoints. So rapport is power. It is a way to communicate and build connection with others in a rapid amount of time. Yesterday I talked about, the 3 easy steps to build rapport. You might want to write this down. This is like really quick and easy. Yesterday it took me like a half an hour to say these things, or 80 minutes. I can't remember. I talked a lot. But basically 3 things. Remember, it was smile at everybody. Who remembers the other 2? Smile at everybody. Talk to everyone. And I said read books, but what do I mean by that? Life experiences. I think I just need to change it to life experiences in my presentations. So those 3 things help you to communicate with other people. It's a feeling of responsiveness. It's created by a feeling of commonality. The most basic form is by asking questions. Hey, how you doing? Where you from? Hey, where did you go to school? Did you play any sports? And, we've all done this before. And if any of you went out to, I don't know, you went to some club or some bar or the supermarket or laundromat, I bet any one of you, and don't underestimate yourselves, could within a few minutes find rapport with somebody. Just start talking to somebody if you put yourself out there and start talking to somebody, and then kind of build up a little bit of a conversation or a friendship. But there's secret little cool things that we can do with our bodies as well. Our bodies, our voices, our words, in order to connect with people. Is this on? Might have to change the battery. Okay. So, let me see. The clicker's not working today. So, some of the big things that can help us build rapport is the posture, the way that we hold ourselves. If you start doing something called matching and mirroring, that's the biggest 2 aspects of rapport. You've got a whole bunch of little micro particles of what rapport is, but the 2 biggest things are matching and mirroring. Now, what matching and mirroring is, it's doing something very similar to somebody else's body language, okay? And it's not mimicking, because we already talked about that thing where, the first grade, second grade, where the person's like, hey, stop saying that. Stop it. No, you're annoying me, and we do that little voice thing, like when you're having a conversation. Yeah, stop it. No, you stop it. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to beat you up, and the 2 people are saying this thing, and it's just annoying. So you're not doing that, but you pay attention to how the person is sitting, how the person's standing, how the person's breathing, the way that they say things. So if somebody was trying to not mimic me, but if they were trying to match me, they would be standing with 1 foot forward, 1 foot out to the side just a little bit, hand in the pocket. It doesn't need to be this hand. If I'm matching, who wants to be a volunteer person? Does anybody want to be a volunteer person? Come on, you gotta have at least one. Okay, thanks, Jen. Thanks, appreciate it. You'll just be up here. I'm not sure, like,
I'll just
how
stand
much. Yeah, why don't we just stand here. Stand or sit or whatever.
I'll stand.
Okay, cool. Actually, this is gonna work very well because last night, maybe next week, a few more vitamins, you'll get there.
Thanks.
So, look at this. Do you see what happens here? So look, just stop your body. So, have one hand in. She has two hands in. It's a matching thing. Yesterday, when we were sitting next to each other, about 3/4 of the way through the show, I started doing some body movements, and I noticed off to the side, you started matching some of my body
Well,
movements.
you kept your hands like this, and I felt bad because I was like spread out. And
No.
then you kept doing
It was the bouncing of the leg at one point in
That was
time.
Danica.
Oh, yeah, I do that really bad.
Did you really?
That was Danica. I think you were seeing.
No. It was right here. It was your leg. I
So why was
know.
it matching Danica?
And that's interesting. Because I'm not sure if I started first or you started first, so probably
You're both
I don't know because
it's probably like Danica,
Danica's and me.
you, and then me.
That makes sense.
So you'll notice that sometimes people match body language in different ways. How many people, stop where you're at, how many people have their arms somewhat folded? In some way. Now, that can be luck, but also it's a thing where maybe there's a commonality there as well. So we think about the different ways that we sit. If let's just have a seat real quick. If we wanted to be like Luke, okay, if you wanted to match Luke, how would you sit? Not Luke. You just look like a Luke Ashton.
Ashton, Aiden, Austin.
Hey, I recovered. Okay. So here's the thing. If I wanted to sit like Luke, I could fold my arms like this. Or I might have my hands out, but I have my legs. So I'm not doing the whole thing like him, but the matching and mirroring is like this. Okay, let's stand up. This is what I remembered I was going to have you do. So if put your hand in one pocket or do just one. Okay, so if I do this and it looks the same like this is called mirroring. Because in the mirror, it's the exact same side. If I was matching her while she's doing her left arm, I'm doing my left arm. This usually is a little more subtle, but you can do something like that. So when you're matching somebody, they're doing their left arm, you're doing your left arm. They're doing their right arm, you do your right arm. That's mirroring. Do you guys understand the difference between matching and mirroring? There's other things that you can do. You can match rate, so postures, proximity. Some people are really good with just talking at this space. Other people are good at talking at this space. I was telling you guys yesterday, I know, just from time to time. So yesterday I was telling you about the one lady who had incredibly good eye contact. She loved standing very close to me and talking. That, about here, kind of makes me a little uncomfortable. But she would stand with me like this. Did you notice what happened? So if you notice the person start to lean back or they stop, take a slight step back. Make them more comfortable. There's people who really like talking up close to me, and it's weird for me, but I'm like when someone comes up and they're like talking like this, and they're not trying to be aggressive, I've learned to kind of accept it for myself because I can. If it's not good for you, just step back a little bit. But if you're trying to build rapport with some people, just kind of accept the space. There's some people where you get like this close and they're like, I'm good. So when you break their barrier, when you break anyone's barrier, or if you distance yourself too much from someone's barrier, it can break rapport. Now, like I said, you don't want to do anything that's too uncomfortable for you, but if there's a cushion to where you can consciously be aware of it and flex it, that's one way. Handshake. Oh, this is cool. So with handshakes, I was talking yesterday, Jules was talking about power positions, and there's one with handshakes as well. I just touched that, so it's a little bit wet.
That's great.
So handshaking, you want to always match their handshake. The way that I was taught a proper handshake for me was fairly firm handshake, look them in the eyes, say hi, stuff like this. But there's some people who
Yeah, when they do that, what do you do?
the dead fish.
I'm like, oh, it's cool. I don't need a handshake.
Yeah,
Not that important.
yeah. Interesting body language reasoning as to why. Who likes the dead fish? Nobody. Who hates the dead fish? Okay. The reason why he wrote The Lizard Brain. Mark Baldwin. Mark Baldwin. He was an acting coach. He was an English acting coach, and he followed body language a lot. What he said was the reasoning of why people don't like the dead fish is because it shows weakness and sickness. And so it made us subconsciously think this person's ill, they're going to make me ill. And so that's why we have like a cringe to it. And
I
so,
think they don't like me.
well, I didn't want to say anything, but
Okay.
here's an interesting thing. If you watch presidential people, like Putin, there's actually a video of Putin shaking hands. They will receive people in a way that you'll see the handshake where like the person who wants to be in command will have their hand pointing outwards towards the camera. So whenever Putin, you'll see this with Bill Clinton as well, and first Bush, they always receive their guests from the left side, because if the guests are coming in from the left side, if the guests are coming in from the left side, they're shaking their hands on top, they turn their hands this way a little bit. So this is, we are equal. This is, I am over you. This is, I am more powerful than you. This is, I'm subservient to you. I'm below you. So there's some interesting things with handshake. So why am I saying this? This is cool because you want to try and understand that kind of thought process. There's times where I come in, and when there's somebody who's, I know is just being like this pseudo alpha male. So alpha males, I think, are guys who are very kind, loving, and intelligent. Pseudo alphas are the assholes with the toxic masculinity. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So if I have a pseudo male and he wants to come in with a dominant hand, so you come to do the dominant hand to like turn, I hold that one with them, and I look at them. I hold it even, and I look at them. Do you see what I'm doing? If I have somebody who has a low self-esteem, okay, so we worry about the people who have low self-esteem. Remember the in-rolled shoulders and stuff like that? Somebody who you think might be bummed out, this is what I purposefully do. So let's imagine that you're not fantastic, that you're all bummed out, and you come in and you're wanting to do the submissive hand, like turn like that. I, holding my confidence, being cool and everything like that, I try and be like the cool guy. I go submissive to that person. So I turn myself, this is what I do. I personally am turning myself submissive to that person who has low energy. Because I'm okay. I'm okay with losing a handshake, but subconsciously sending them the message that I think that they are more powerful. Because subconsciously, it doesn't even really make it to them in their own awareness, but subconsciously, it's getting there to them that they're a good person, that they are of value, that they're powerful. So that's one thing I do with a lot of people. I'll be like, hey man, it is an honor to meet you. You're a really cool person, and I'll also throw out a compliment or two as well. I love going to like dance clubs sometimes. I know. And and finding the guy or the girl who's kind of like, like trying to like dance, but I can tell they're feeling really self-conscious. And everyone else is dancing, and I'm usually kind of easy to see in those instances, okay? I'm a big guy. I usually will wear a kilt, when I go to a club or something like that, and raving, and I kind of look like a thing. And I'm dancing, I'm jamming, and like a lot of people will be having energy. And like this person might be over here, and I'm like, I wait until they see me seeing them, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And then they're like, and that's like one of my favorite things to do, because I love just seeing like their energy completely change. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was telling you that me and my buddy would go into clubs or into other places and try and dominate the rooms. I think the fun of it is just to see how the energy can change. It's like a game almost. Hey, can I switch this person from this low energy to maybe having a good life? Okay, facial expressions. So,
Can I interject something?
yes,
here
please.
Just to put in relations.
Yeah.
So, how does this impact what we do with teens? Like, where can this be used with our teens? Do you think of him doing these things to lift their energy? It's everything that he's teaching we need to put in association with. So the first thing I thought of is
Yeah.
like traps. Like, we have a lot of opportunities at traps where we're trying to raise the teens. Their energy, and specifically ones who may not feel like they're belonging there or that they're, being accepted there. Those are some techniques that we can use as staff to go in and bring them in and raise their energy. And it does require us to be a little bit higher energy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. And that's with all of them.
Yeah.
So what's the specific tract you
So
said?
Trapped is a conference that we run. It's a 3-day conference that we do every year for teens, and it's like a self-development 3 days. It's 100% paid for them, but we just do a lot of team building, a lot of self-development. We have speakers come in that talk about drug and alcohol prevention, and okay.
I was like,
It's
I never
November 1st
heard
through 4th this year.
What?
November 1st through 4th. So let's see where we can get.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll squeeze. I'd love to come in and just speak for like 45 minutes, hour with them or something like that.
I feel like
Yeah.
the lip sync part of it is
Yeah.
a real energy changer because they're all embarrassed and everyone like doesn't care.
Yeah.
So they're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do like a stepping out of the box where they're given a song that they're lip syncing to, but the point of it is that their team is to be their cheerleader, and that everybody's cheering so loud it doesn't matter how they sound or what they look like, because everybody is all about them and allowing them to step out of their comfort zones. So
That's
one
huge.
of the activities. Anyway, so it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. It's dawn till we don't go to bed, basically. But it's the best.
They trap them in a hotel, so we give them a hotel
I'm
room.
a night shift nurse. Yeah, I'm on board.
Right.
I'm
Well,
good.
luckily I do this job.
I'm good. We'll be like, Mike's got the midnight to 6 a.m.
Yeah, right.
We'll be like, okay. And then like at 8 a.m. everybody's like, we're tired. We
Yeah.
want to go to bed. Mike talked too much. Yeah, awesome.
So yeah.
Cool. So, and you can do this across the room too. So like, just as an example, and thanks for just being here no, just stay up here. And you can have a seat, whatever you want to do. But just having you here, because I'm going to use it at different times. But like, just stop your position. Look at Michelle. Okay, her body position. It's a very unique position. So let's say, what's your name again? Me? Yeah. Katie. Okay, I thought it was, but I wasn't sure on that one. So Katie, if you wanted to match her body language from all the way there, if you wanted to build a connection, you could do the same thing. So you can do her same body position. Maybe you can't see that.
I don't have a chair.
No.
I would have to like put my arm.
Exactly. Okay, cool. And you have your legs just regular where she has them crossed. But here's the thing. You don't need to have every single body position. You're just doing something. You're doing some things to try and connect. And you're doing the consciousness. You can do it from across the room. Me and my buddy, Kurt, so we're friends, and we watched this stuff. We learned this stuff. We would do it with people far across the room and then slightly start to get closer and do the same position, and then slightly closer and do the same position and closer. And then when we get close to the person, we'd have our backs turned to them. and wait for them to touch us and contact us. And there's like this tap, and it's hilarious. There's a trick that Tony Robbins says one time, where he says, go into a restaurant and choose somebody somewhat close to you. Do you know this one? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So why don't you say it real quick?
Well, like if you take a drink or something like that, it's been a long time since I've seen the video.
Okay.
But then you notice like.
So he says this basically. So there's a thing in addition to matching and mirroring. There's leading and pacing. I think I told you guys about. Oh no, it was yesterday at dinner. I told some of these people this story. So what leading and pacing is another aspect of rapport. So when it talks about gestures, look at my hand. So let's say that I'm talking. I'm like, man, this is awesome. It was such a good day. It was really great. A few moments later, when you're talking to me, you do the same exact. Hey, it's awesome. It's really great. There's some people who I know, and they're like, they like snapping their fingers, which is really pathetic because mine sounds really weak. But what?
I can't snap.
You know what? That's as good as I get. So that's as good as I get.
Did you ask him to
Now everybody's on it. But they're like, let's say that I'm doing this, or somebody like is like, dude, that was awesome. That was cool. I'm not following them at the moment doing it, but they're doing it when they're talking. Usually people make some kind of gesture as they're speaking. So you wait until you're speaking and you're like, dude, it was the best. See what I mean? So the one person does the gesture, maybe even keep it in your mind for like 2 or 3 minutes later. Just kind of have the conversation going, and then you do it. And the people are like, ooh, I've got a friend. There's like this connection with it. So doing gestures. One thing, this actually happened with my very first coaching client that I ever did. She was a 15, 16-year-old kid. And I'd heard about this from one of my trainers, that he did something very similar. But I showed up, and, sorry, I'm going to steal this pen. Oh, I guess I could do the pencil. So I showed up, and I'm sitting there, and this girl is like, right? And she's like, as we're talking, and I'm like, gonna have to either do 1, take the pencil, 2, strangle her. 2 was really high on the list at that time. Or 3, match her. So she was doing that. So I didn't grab a pencil and start doing the same thing. As she's doing this, I start doing the same thing with my foot. I stop a little bit, she does it. And so I'm doing this. So I'm matching her. And then what I start to do is, after you build that connection, I started slowing my foot down. Instead of at this rate, I started, and she started doing the same rate. And this was over like a 10, 15-minute period. And then I stopped, and she stopped. So Tony Robbins, when he talks about the drink thing in the restaurant, says you go into a restaurant, choose somebody that's within line of sight, maybe not right in front of you, but kind of, I don't know, whatever angle that is, you know? 45 degrees. Yeah, 45 degrees, thanks. Remember, not good at math, 1.999 GPA, right? So we got this angle like this, like for me and Jim. And then every time Jim goes to take a drink, I grab a drink and sip. Put it down every time Jim does it. So Tony Robbins says, like, try this out. And I have tried this out, and it's really cool. Keep doing that for 5-10 minutes. And then when the person's not drinking, reach for your drink and pay attention to what they do. It's like 9 times out of 10, they'll go for it. We just cue in. It's that whole connection thing that we're talking about, where we're neurologically hardwired for survival. we try to find connection in some way. So we can do that. Facial expressions. So things like, oh, yeah. Oh. Matching somebody's facial expression, like I said, give it a little bit of time in between. Really helps out with it. Blinking, I don't really know about that one because blinking, you can try and blink at their rate, but that's like too much of a problem for me. Smiles, we already talked about smiles. Always have a smile or a grimace on your face, a little bit that you can turn on. Elena, let's practice the smile thing real quick. There you go, sister. By the way, thank you so much for the conversation last night. It really helped me. I appreciate that. Pace. So, okay, breathing. So last night at dinner, there was a few of us there. I was talking with Becky. I think I'm able to say this. Becky has somebody in her family that she's concerned about. I think a lot of us probably do. And she's like, I don't know how to talk to this person. This person doesn't want to do stuff. I don't know if I could take them to the hospital. If I had to take them to the hospital, what's something I could do? And one of the things I said is breathing. Now, breathing is magic. There's a really cool thing. There's a really cool story. We've seen on the news that Maui is burning down, right? Unfortunately, Lahaina will never be Lahaina like it was ever again, which is interesting because King Kamehameha, who's the one king who united all the 7 major islands of Hawaii, that was his base. That was his kingdom. That was the center of his kingdom. King Kamehameha was what we used to call a kahuna. Okay, you've heard of Big Kahuna. Hey, Big Kahuna. Right, Cito? Yeah, Big Kahuna. Dude, I love you, Cito. You're just such a badass, man. I think Cito's my new best friend. Anyways. Anyways, a kahuna wasn't like a surfer kahuna. A kahuna was basically kind of like a PhD level of something. So there's a kahuna of surfing. There's a kahuna of, farming. There's a kahuna of fishing. It's kind of like the tribal guru on different things. But he was considered the kahuna, the guru, the leader of all of Hawaii. They would do this interesting thing because there are years of battle and there's years of incredible, like hundreds of years periods sometimes of peace with the Hawaiian kahunas. And what they would do is there'd be the concept of a war. So maybe they were thinking of having some battles. Maybe they were thinking of having a war. They knew that there was frustration amongst them, but they send a messenger from one place to another, and they'd say, okay, we're going to meet up at this place, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to breathe. And they would get together, and when the rules were basically this, they would show up, there would be a fire, and the kahunas would all come, they'd all sit around the fire, and then they would match each other's breathing, okay? And they'd start doing what nowadays we call box breathing, but they called it ha breathing, okay? Ha being the Hawaiian word for breath. And so they'd all breathe, and they'd just do basically a 4 count in, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And they start doing this until they're all in unison. And then someone, they wouldn't say who, would change. Be like, okay, we're going to go to a 6 count. And he'd start changing until they'd all get on like the 6 count in, 6 count hold, 6 count out, 6 count hold. Making that box breathing, right? This is a technique that special forces use in order to become hyper aware and relaxed at the same time. So that's the interesting thing about hypnosis. That's what hypnosis is, right? a state of hyper awareness. Everybody thinks that it's like this relaxation. No, your unconscious mind is hyper aware. You're learning more at that moment with hypnosis. Love hypnosis. Okay? But you're calm at the same time. You can't be anxious and calm at the same time, but you can be very hypersensitive to what's going on, hyper aware, and calm at the same time. So they would start doing this, and then they would change it. Maybe they were doing an 8-count exhale, and they would just do this for hours. Sometimes go back to their places, go to their encampment, get food, sleep, and then come back the next day and do it for days. And then many times they would stand up, walk away without even speaking to the other person, not even trying to negotiate, and have resolved their conflict just by matching the breathing. Now, an interesting little story about that is, what's the name of those islands? The what islands? Hawaii Islands, right? You want to know what the word Hawaii means? Hawaii. It's because it's pronounced incorrectly nowadays. Hawaii. It's because we're Howleys, right? Howleys. You're noticing this ha, right? So Hawaii. Do you guys any of you guys heard the terminology Howley? Is that just a me thing? So Howley is if you're on the islands and you see a Hawaiian person and they're calling you a Howley, don't hang out with that person because they want to kick your butt because they don't like you, because it's like a derogatory term to some of us whiteys. Okay, so what Hawaii is when Captain Cook showed up there, who, I don't know if you know the story, but he was an idiot and he got killed on the islands because he did some idiot stuff. But anyways, when he showed up to one of the islands, he showed up and he's like, what do you call this place? Where do you live? And they had a translator, a Polynesian translator, so the translation wasn't 100% correct. It was like from somebody from like Samoa or something like that. Said, what do you call this place? What is this place where you live? And the person said, Hawaii. And they're like, okay, cool. And they went to another island. And they're like, what do you call this place where you live? And they're like, Hawaii. I am at Hawaii. And they go to what we call Maui now. Hawaii, Kauai, Hawaii, Oahu, Hawaii, Nihau, Hawaii, Kahaloi, Hawaii, Molokai, Hawaii, Lanai, Hawaii, all of the 7 major islands. And he's like, oh, they just call this whole island Hawaii. No. Ha, breath. Wa'i, where I reside. I reside in the eternal breath, is what they were all saying. They're like, where do you reside? And they're like, I reside in the eternal breath of me connecting with other people, is what they were trying to say. They weren't saying this land, they're saying me. So they're saying, I reside in this area where I connect with other people. How freaking cool is that? Now the Howley thing, because we just got to finish that one out. Howley, ha, breath, li, less, without. Those people who don't need to know how to even breathe. That's what Howley means. Man, these people don't get it. They don't get this spiritual connection we have. They don't even know how to breathe, you silly Howley. This person doesn't even know how to breathe. That's what Howley means. Interesting, huh? Cool. So with the breathing, we're going to do a breathing exercise. I don't know why my mouth is so dry today. So we're going to do a breathing exercise in a little bit where we're going to pair up with, I want to do it in groups of 3, but I think we're going to do it just in groups of 2, because that way it'll be quicker. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pair up, and I want one person to be the point person, the A, and the other person B. So person A is going to start breathing at a pace, and person B is going to follow their pace. Person A will change their pace. They can change the depth of the breathing. So like, person A might be breathing out. I want person B to match that, and then person A can change the breath at any time and do that for about 2 minutes. 2 minutes is usually enough for each person to change with like a 30-second in between change. So this is just a quick little 5-minute exercise, time to space out if you want to. But I want you to do this. At the same time, I want you to just look in their eyes, and I want you to notice all the beautiful things about that person. I want you to understand them without them telling you verbally who they are. I want you to look at the beauty of who they are, but catch into the breathing at the same time. Now, this thing works really good. This stuff works amazingly well. I showed you guys a picture on day one of like some people who I've gotten to meet over the years who are really cool. And one of them was like a leader of, he's one of the leaders of the Mormon church. And the way that I met him is he was sitting in seat 4D. I was sitting in seat 2D. We were going business class down to Brazil, and they had a medical emergency. Now, in this medical emergency, this girl, she was having this panic attack, right? So she's having this panic attack. She's all stressed out, bummed out. She's having pain, and the pain was caused by her blood pressure being too high. They called a medical emergency. I went back. I got a little heart med that actually sometimes works as an anxiety pill from one of the passengers nearby. Gave it to her, clonidine, just a 0.1, and gave the clonidine to her. And then I started breathing with her. Now, she was sitting in her seat, and we were at the bulkhead, which is kind of like one of those walls in the airplane. I sat on the floor. She was sitting up, and she was breathing really fast, and she was talking, and she was really anxious, and she's breathing, and whenever she talked, she would be breathing, and it wasn't even like a normal breath, like every single breath. It was like very sporadic. And so what did I do? I'm sitting down, so I put myself in a lower position than her. I make myself subservient to her, okay? Put myself below her. But I start talking to her like this. Okay, so you're really anxious? Okay, all right, so what we're going to do, and I was trying to match her form of breathing, which was really weird. It was kind of really sporadic, right? But I started matching her breathing. After a little bit of doing that, I started breathing, okay, and then I'd return in. And so every so often, I started taking these deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And I'd look at her and I'd nod my head. I'd be like, to nod the head to get agreement, okay? Which is another technique we can do. So I'd do that, and then after a while, I started just doing this, and then after she was matching me a bit, I said, let's take a few deep breaths together, okay? And then I did like 4, and then we went back to just normal, and then we did like 8, and I went back to normal, and then it was just breathing long, deep breaths. And she matched me. This stuff works, guys. I've used it on probably 7 or 8 patients who are in respiratory distress. About 5 or 6 of those during COVID. I taught this to other nurses throughout the country when I was working, and they're like, that sounds ingenious, and they started doing it. This is cool stuff. So the strongest connection that you can have with somebody else utilizing rapport out of all these different things, and we're still going to talk about voice quality, predicates, keywords, stuff like this, but I want to do the breathing exercise. Yes?
How do you like match with, so you match with them, connect with them.
Yeah.
How do you do it without them thinking you're mocking them? Or, like, so I feel like if I was breathing like that and someone started breathing like that, I'd be like, oh.
You don't do it exactly. So you purposely throw it off a little bit, okay? So, and also, I'm not matching her so much as she was talking to me. I'm like nodding my head. I'm anxious. I'm kind of anxious that we're with her. But when I start talking and she's not talking, her attention's off of herself, so she's not paying attention to how she's breathing. She's paying attention to how I'm talking. which is me mimicking but matching her. You see what I mean? So you don't match as much. You match some while the person is match or mirror, some while the person is talking, but as you're talking, that's when you're able to kind of do it a little bit more. And they won't notice it as much. And there's a lot of people there. It's rare if you're not purposely trying to match every single movement, then a lot of people don't catch on to this. There's people who are trained in this who don't realize it sometimes. They're like trained in this. I'll have trainings where I'm doing this, and day one, nobody will notice that they're matching. By the last days, maybe half the people realize that somebody else is matching. And I'll like stop them throughout the training. Like day 5, I'll be like, okay, stop, take a look at body positions, see who you're connected to. And people will stop and they'll be like, oh my gosh, like I was kind of thinking about that person, I'm doing the body language that they're doing without even realizing it from the outside. So a lot of people don't catch on, okay? It's like if it's blatant, if it's like really obvious, like you're mimicking, then they catch on. But just be like, but kind of maybe tap it up too. Don't be like breathing normal and then suddenly like, oh, hey, like that. Like maybe start in and kind of slide up to them. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they're breathing really fast and you're breathing normal, and then over time, get up to their level, match them, stay with them for a while, bring them down. Okay, cool. Let's do the breathing exercise now. I think you guys got it. Grab whoever you want to. With this one, if it's your best buddy, that probably works even better because you're already connected in some way. I don't know who's luckier out of those two to be buddies. I don't know. Is Tyler the lucky one? Is Cedar the lucky one? I don't know. I don't know which one is luckier. I don't know. Cool. So let's do that. You can do it here in the room. You can pair out, but let's just do it real quick and then come back. I want to finish this stuff before we go to break. We'll go to break around 10:30. Okay. Cool. Did you hear what the exercise is? Or were you?
I figured someone would tell me.
Okay. So it's basically this. You're going to pair up with someone. And match their breathing. So you're going to have person A and person B. So 2 minutes each person. So your 2 minutes is person A and 2 minutes is person B. So person A will start breathing. Person B will match their breathing. Person A can change their breathing at any point in time, and person B matches. And then like a 30-second switch, time to switch, something like that, or 5 seconds, however long it takes, and then do that. Cool?